If you're tuning into this video, you are interested in the connection between mitochondria and mental health, and you are like me. I've been on a long journey with this, and so I'm so excited to get deep into this mind-body connection. And there's also this really big question: what's the root cause to mental health? And this question has remained unanswered for many, many years, and I'm looking forward to diving deep into that answer in this video today. We're going to go on an exploration and a bit of an adventure on all the things that are impacting our mitochondria and mental health, and also the things that we can do to make a profound impact. I'm going to get into all the tools and tricks to take really good care of your mitochondria. How many times do we say mental health stuff runs in the family, or it's genetic, and we just go on like it's a normal thing? These things weren't normal when I was growing up, and you might say, well, wait a minute, maybe they were, just no one talked about them. However, a lot has changed since I was growing up. One of the things is the industrial food revolution, which has completely changed the scope of the environment in which we live, and it's had a direct impact on our mitochondria. I'm going to get to that more in just a moment. Sometimes we say depression is there because we're lacking in serotonin. What if we are, but the place in which we thought our serotonin was located was all wrong? I'm sure you might know this because most of the people who watch my videos are pretty in tune with their body, but 75% to 80% of your serotonin actually lives inside your gut. The very large majority of it is in your gut. The gut's a second brain. There's neurotransmitters inside your gut, and of course, there's mitochondria, which is our power source. It's our energy source, and it is the powerhouse that connects along with many other things, but primarily the vagus nerve that also connects us to our brain. So we're going to talk about how to reduce inflammation, not only in your brain, but also in your gut, and how to really support your mitochondria health. What if this mental health stuff did run in the family, but the only thing is, it's the mitochondria and gut health that was running in the family? Did you know that you actually inherited your mother's nervous system? Yes, and you also inherited her gut health. Now, she did the best she could, and her mother did the best that she could. Thank you, epigenetics. The best news of this is that it's not a permanent affliction like we once thought. I'm going to get more into that in just a moment too. We can support our mitochondria. We can support the serotonin levels in our gut. I know because I've been practicing these things not only myself, but sharing them with my clients for many years, and I'm going to share as much as I can in this short video with you today. Oh, and I want you to know I created a whole free class on this. It's called the Gut-Brain Access, or the Gut-Brain Connection, and I want you to check that out because it's going to go even deeper into this whole concept. So check that out. It's in the link below. The number one thing I want to start with today is nose breathing versus mouth breathing. Now, this is coming from somebody who's been a mouth breather almost my entire life. I have done a lot of work to learn how to breathe properly through my nose. Now, a lot of us say, I'm going to just skip past this part of the video because I got that handled. Who doesn't know how to breathe? The large majority of people. You would be surprised how many people do not breathe properly. I know it's a little too much information, but when I was growing up, I had so many dental issues. I'm going to share more about that in another video, but one of the biggest reasons I learned was because I was breathing through my mouth. See if you can go an hour, maybe 2 hours, how you're breathing. Are you breathing through your nose with your mouth shut, or are you breathing through your mouth? Test it when you're working out. Test it when you're driving, or maybe when you're in anxiety, or you're at the computer and you're doing some work and you're very focused. Are you breathing through your nose, or are you breathing through your mouth? When we breathe through our nose, the air is actually warmed, it's filtered, it's like a humidifier going on, and then that beautiful oxygen comes down and it makes such an impact on our gut health. When we breathe through our mouth, we don't warm the air. The air is not filtered. It creates more anxiety, more of a nervous system response in our body. And it's cool. So it has a negative impact on our gut health and our mitochondria. Not to mention, when we breathe through our nose, we have more blood flow in the face. This makes a huge impact on how our jaw is working. It has a huge impact on where we rest our tongue in our mouth. This, by the way, is going to become a whole video of itself. I'm in the process. This is going to be a good video for you coming soon. You see, when we breathe through our mouth, we bypass this whole nasal passage. And what that does is it creates an inconsistency in the bacterial composition inside your guts. It throws everything off. Our nasal passage has all kinds of beneficial bacteria that makes a really big impact on our mitochondria. We need that. So when you think about it, even when you're sleeping, which hopefully you're doing anywhere from 6 to 8 hours a night, how are you breathing? Are you breathing through your nose or are you breathing through your mouth? And not only does that make an impact with the breath, but if your sleep is not healthy, you're not sleeping, you're waking up all night, that is one of the biggest impacts negatively on our mitochondria as well. So we want to heal our sleep and we want to heal our breathing. I want you to just pay attention to these things, and even starting with those, oh my God, what a difference it's going to make for you. One last thing, when we breathe through our mouth, and this has been my experience, we end up breathing very shallow. So we just breathe through right here in the chest. And when we breathe through our nose, we have nice, deep, low diaphragm belly breaths. And this makes such an impact on our ability to regulate in our nervous system and hold the capacity for the stressors that come into our life, not to mention the physical stressors that come into our body. If you have issues with your gut, like digestive issues, constipation, bloating, diarrhea, I want you to really pay attention to what I just said about the breathing. I want to talk about my client. And when she came to me, she told me a story about how she had held in a deep shame of something for her entire life and really had not shared it with many people. She also shared with me that she was on anti-anxiety meds and then also antidepressants for a very long time, not at the same time. Over the course of about 30 years, she was on these medications. When she came to me, she also had chronic diarrhea that was really embarrassing to her. So she would have to run to the bathroom. She had to wear special kinds of pants just to make sure. And she was dealing with all kinds of gut issues and feeling, in her words, very numb, very lonely, very empty. Through our work together over years, she started to share with me that she felt that her emotional range was lacking. And I knew that she needed to be able to experience a wider capacity of emotions in order for her to heal. The other thing that we are doing is that we were working very diligently, not rigidly, but diligently on her gut health. And her diarrhea had gone away, and that was a huge win. And she was starting to get a lot of good results with her gut healing and also rebuilding her mitochondria. She was starting to feel like she could cut back on her medication. And by the way, this was not my job to cut back on the medication. This was her choice. And it was something that she worked not only with her doctor, but another doctor and also myself to make this happen. This was a team effort. She made so many lifestyle changes, and she started to get to the point where she realized she could feel again. You see, when we take a lot of medications to kind of suppress our feelings, what happens is that we actually suppress both the positive and the negative at the same time. And that's not necessarily a good thing. All right, we got to talk about the environment because we are inundated with so much stuff in this external environment. And the environment in which we live is directly impacting our mitochondrial health. We have insecticides and herbicides, and we have genetically modified foods, and we have all kinds of things that are sprayed in the air. And this is not to be negative, this is just the reality. There's fluoride in our water, there's pharmaceuticals in our water supply, sometimes there's heavy metals in our water supply. We definitely have heavy metals like mercury, aluminum, and sometimes lead inside our bodies. Through a hair test, I found out that I had really high amounts of bismuth in my body. I had to look that one up. Bismuth is the #1 ingredient in Pepto-Bismol. And my doctor literally asked me if I was drinking like a half a bottle of Pepto-Bismol every day to go to the bathroom. And I said that I hadn't touched Pepto-Bismol in like 20 years. But what I learned after detailed investigation, that it was a very popular ingredient in some of the makeup that I was using. So I was putting makeup on my skin, which is our largest organ, and directly impacting my gut health with the ingredients in it. And it happened to be a kind of healthy makeup. And not only that, but also impacting my mitochondria function and so much more. We don't realize that we put these things on our skin, we clean our house, There's all kinds of things floating around in our environment. These are not things to scare us, but they are reminders that there's a lot of things that are impacting our mitochondria, and this is why we need to make more of an effort. We make this effort because we need to know that building our mitochondria creates a happier self in whatever environment we might find ourselves in. There's mycotoxins in many of the residences that we find ourselves in or office buildings, and these are molds that have a really big impact not only on brain inflammation and the body, but also, of course, mitochondrial health. Our livers are overburdened, our hormones are dysregulated, and we've been damaging our gut without even knowing it. And then we throw in all the packaged and processed foods, and sometimes the dehydration that many of us find ourselves in. I'm going to get more into that in a moment. We stare at the screen too much. I'm so glad you're here, by the way, but we definitely stare at the screen too much. And then we do the worst thing and we look down at the screen. We're looking down like this all day, every day, impacting our breathing, impacting our mental health. Then we're also consuming way too many seed oils. Seed oils are things like soybean oil or canola or corn oil or palm oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil. Sounds so lovely, doesn't it? But it's not. These things are destroying our mitochondria and our gut health. And they're hidden inside all the things that we know and love. You need to become a label reading junkie, somebody who's looking at the labels more often and really being able to decipher, is this something that I really want to consistently be putting in my body? Then there are pharmaceutical drugs that are damaging our mitochondria and our gut health, not just in our water supply, but more than half of the population is taking some kind of pharmaceutical drug as I record this. And that's a huge number. Half the population, if not more, is dealing with some kind of mental health issue. Now, I'm not anti-medication, but they are not designed to be long-term. They're there for people to get through really tough times. If someone's on suicide watch, so grateful that they're there. However, these things are literally damaging our gut health, our population of good bacteria versus bad bacteria, and our mitochondrial health, which is the very thing that we know is creating optimal health. So we need to weigh, is taking these things over and over every single day that is actually damaging my mitochondria more important than me building up my mitochondria? Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving you medical advice. Always discuss with your doctor your plan of action, but there is a way to gently start to build up your gut bacteria and to take care of your body in new ways by letting go of some of the things that I just shared with you, while simultaneously supporting your mitochondria health, so that if or when you decide to wean yourself off some of the things that you took, like for example, I took birth control pills for 15 years. That was way too long and it greatly damaged my gut health. Bottom line, we can take control of our mental health by taking care of our mitochondria. There has been a recent breakthrough in psychiatry that might be a missing piece to this mysterious puzzle that we surround ourselves with every single day in our world on mental health. And it's rooted in a gentleman named Dr. Christopher Palmer. He's a Harvard professor of psychiatry that has been connecting the dots between mental health and mitochondria. He started to do this back in 2016 when one of his patients who had schizoaffective disorder was really struggling because he was gaining so much weight from the psychotropic drugs that he was taking for his illness. And at that time, he wanted to lose weight, and Dr. Palmer decided he would help him out. He started to look into things like the ketogenic diet and took this patient on a path to start on the diet. And what he started to notice is a really big impact on his mental health issues. And it was a positive one. It started to go into remission. At first, the doc said, "I can't believe this is happening." He was in disbelief, but he kept going and it kept working. So he took this protocol and he started to use it with many other patients. And lo and behold, more and more people started to have powerful impacts on their mental health by starting to heal their mitochondria. Of course, this encouraged him to start a scientific study, which I'm referencing. His book, by the way, is called Brain Energy. It's a really great book, and I do recommend it. I have been doing this work for over 14 years. And when I share this with you, this is not a shocker to me because I have been seeing hundreds and hundreds of times over the years with myself and with so many clients and patients that I have worked with, where when we heal the gut and the mitochondria, you can see their mental health issues start to go into remission, if not recover fully. Even though it's not a shock to me, it's always nice to see the science catch up with the things that me and many other practitioners have already known, because truthfully, I was pointed at and called a conspiracy theorist or a quack for even mentioning that mitochondria could impact mental health just 5 years ago. I want to share a very short story of my own personal experience. So back in the day, I was about 19 years old and I had developed shingles and I had just gotten a tetanus shot, and I kind of related that this time in my life I didn't have the best immune system and I wasn't feeling that good, and I was basically living on allergy medications. I was popping them like Tic Tacs. I was the person who was always sick, and I was getting a lot of digestive issues, and all kinds of infections were popping up, and things were not going very well. And the shingles basically reflected my very poor immune system. I found myself at a new doctor, and when I went to the doctor, they said, "We want to test you for leukemia." And I didn't have leukemia, thankfully. But the reason why is because they said that my white blood cell count was so irregular that essentially they needed to investigate further. And they found, in their words, they said that I had basically little to no immune system. And they wanted to send me on my way to find out what in my environment could be causing this. And I remember asking them a very specific question. I said, "Is there any chance this has anything to do with the food I'm eating?" I mean, this was way back when. I'm 44 now, so I was 19 at the time. It was many years ago. And they looked at me and said, "Food is just a placebo. It has no bearing on your health whatsoever." And I felt a bit discouraged, but I went home and honestly didn't know what to do. But back then, we didn't have the dialogue we have now. Essentially, I was starting to get an autoimmune disease. At least the doctors I was seeing at the time didn't have the language to articulate what the beginnings of autoimmune disease might look like and also how to take care of our body. So we have gone, this is beautiful, from some doctors in the world thinking that food is a placebo and that it has no bearing on our health whatsoever, all the way to finding scientific research to prove that improving upon mitochondria health can actually put schizophrenia into remission. That's a big deal. So I want to get to some things that you can do to take action right now. Now, I already mentioned in great detail about breathing through your nose. That's a really big deal. I also mentioned healing your sleep. Now, let's get to water. I'm not going to go crazy on the water, but I got to tell you, it's the number one thing that I tell my brand new clients who come to work with me. If you are not drinking half your body weight in ounces of water in every single day, then pretty much anything that we do together is not going to make an impact. You're also going to need really good minerals and good sea salts. And I'm not talking about the table salt. All those doctors who are like, "You have too much sodium, cut back on your sodium." They're talking about the processed and packaged crap that we eat every day. They're not talking about really high quality sea salt. You need a lot of that, and you need really good minerals, so that way when you drink all this water, your body can actually take it in and absorb it, and you just don't pee it out. Reminder to cut out the seed oils, cut out the packaged foods, the processed foods. Cut back on the sugars. Cut out the sugars if you can. Sugar is wrecking the bacteria balance inside of your gut health and also diminishing the ability for your mitochondria to be strong. The other thing that I want you to focus on is building up the tolerance in your body through saunas or cold plunges or through workouts or even just consistently moving your body, whether it's a swift walk every single day or some light weight training. Build the capacity in your body to hold more tolerance and more resiliency. And this also makes a really profound impact on your mitochondria health. Cut back on the caffeine, cut back on the alcohol, cut back on the smoking, cut back on the pharmaceutical drugs. All these things are breaking down your gut health. Support yourself with more things like magnesium and turmeric and vitamin D. I'm not a doctor, I am a practitioner, but I am not diagnosing you. I'm not telling you that these are the exact things you should take. You should always check with your practitioner, get your blood work done, check with a doctor. Coenzyme Q10, very powerful for your brain and your gut health. I'm going to mention two more. There's something called NAD, which is another coenzyme that is very powerful for helping mitochondria. And then alpha lipoic acid, which can actually protect your mitochondria from oxidative stress. The big thing here today is that you take something from this video and you put it into practice, because we can all watch all kinds of videos like this, but unless we go out there, and I mean 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, you focus on your breathing. 10 minutes a day, you start to fill up the water jug, or you meal prep, because we need to be adding in really good dark leafy greens, good nuts, good fruits, really good lean proteins, omegas. All these things make such an impact on our body and our mitochondrial production. So what's the root cause of mental illness? Well, I would say at our root, this inner love we have with our mitochondria, when we start from the inside out, it makes such a difference on everything, on our thinking, on our connection to our spirituality, on our emotions, and every relationship that we have in our life. I'd love to hear anything that you have to say about this video, especially if you've experienced any of it. And are you a mouth breather or are you a nose breather? Put it down in the comments. And if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. It really helps me in the algorithms when you do that. And if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe. I have a new video that comes out every single week. I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Thanks, everyone.